Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to No Life Digital. I am currently shooting on the Canon R5. This is a 4K non-HQ 29.97 all-eye neutral color profile, automatic white balance at 35 millimeters on the Canon RF 16 to 35. Digital IS is turned off and overheat control is turned on. Let's see how the autofocus is. Looks good. Now this camera has had tons of controversy. In my opinion, it's one of the most controversial cameras that Canon has released in some time. Maybe just until the R, I guess. Which I'm also going to be doing tests with. I do have the EOS R there. When the R came out, everyone kind of railed on Canon for not including IBIS and that horrendous 4K crop. So when I heard that they were releasing essentially the same camera, an EOS R, with a better sensor, with better IBIS, with better autofocus, but no crop on 4K, I was very excited. I was willing to pay pretty much whatever they wanted. There was no camera like that on the market. I'm a hybrid shooter. I like to shoot video, long form video, short form video, slow motion video. I'm in many different climates. I'm in many different areas where the camera does get stressed. I really do stress my cameras. And I'm also not just a Canon owner. I also own Sony. I've been with Sony since they basically turned to mirrorless. And Canon and Nikon kind of have lagged behind on the mirrorless market. So it's nice to kind of head back to these more traditional camera companies now that they're entering the more modern mirrorless game. The problem with these cameras that everyone is talking about is the overheating. There's overheating in 4K, downsampled 4K in any mode. There's overheating in 4K 120. There's overheating in 4K 60. And there's overheating in 8K. In my opinion, I can excuse that as long as this specific mode, the non-HQ 4K, full frame, IBIS with autofocus, as long as this meets the standard of the EOS R's 4K, then I'm very happy with this camera, and there's really nothing like it on the market. So now Sony has released their A7S III, and I probably will be getting that camera once it's released. That camera is basically just a video camera. I am not comfortable using that camera as a photo camera. I know some people will say 12 megapixels is enough. I've used the Sony A7S II. 12 megapixels is not enough, especially when you get into any sort of cropping on the photo. People say I don't crop on photos. Okay, well, I do. But this is where the bread and butter is for this camera, in my opinion. 4K 30, 4K 24 frames per second, not downsampled, just the regular 4K. How good does it look? Is it usable? Can you tell the difference between this and the downsampled mode? And if you can tell the difference, how much of a difference is there? How much of a difference is the regular 4K line skipped mode compared to an EOS R, as well as the 4K out of an older A7R III? I kind of want to put into context everything. People have gotten really lost with the context of the market. There's currently no hybrid photo camera with this much megapixels, but just more than 20 megapixels that shoots 4K 24 frames per second with a flip out screen, with great IBIS, with autofocus, and of course the added features of 4K 60, 4K 120 bursts, and then even the downsampled 8K. That's incredible. Like, this is an incredible spec camera. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It is kind of upsetting that there isn't an unlimited record limit. I would like to see that being removed. It's also upsetting to see that there is heat issues. Being with Sony forever, I'm not new to heat issues, and it's very, very frustrating to work around those issues, especially because with Sony, it's so dependent on the environment and just if the camera's having a bad day. I really like how they give you a countdown timer for the heat management on the Canon. I think Sony should implement something like that. But yeah, I would like to see that all being removed. So how does it look? This is kind of a strenuous little scene here. I have the window open so you can kind of see the highlight, the detail in the shadows here. Again, this is the neutral picture profile. I will be testing tons of different modes, so just stick with me here. I can't really tell on that little screen, but I can tell that little screen is an excellent quality. The camera feels amazing. It feels very similar to the EOS R, except they got rid of that touch bar thing. Oh, I also want to state I am using the old Canon batteries in this camera, so I'll let you guys know how long these batteries last, the older LPNH6, whatever they're called. So how does it look? Everything look good? Now what I'm going to do is let the camera run until the 30-minute timer runs out, and then I'm going to go into HQ mode and see how much time we have left. So now we are in the 4K HQ downsampled mode, where we're downsampling the 8K sensor, all eye, 2997, ISO 400, 35 millimeters. How does it look? How much different does it look? Neutral picture profile, auto white balance, overheat control is on, digital IS off. And now we are in 4K 60 frames per second, non-HQ. There is no HQ mode, downsampled mode for 4K 60. I'm assuming the same for 4K 120. This is UHD, by the way. Also, I want to state I filmed that first part with the non-HQ mode and was able to just hop right into the 4K downsample and the 4K 60. It didn't show me any overheat warnings, or it didn't show me any sort of overheat timer at all. Everything seems to be good. How does this quality look? From the things that I've seen online, this quality here, the 4K 60, should be about the same quality as the 4K non-HQ mode. All right, now this is the EOS R on 4K. So there is a substantial crop, and I had to pull it to around 24, well, maybe 20 millimeters. It's also at 400 ISO, 2997. It is in the all eye. Now I do want to say the EOS R is definitely an underrated camera. If you are looking for a great full frame camera that does great videos and great stills and is relatively inexpensive, there is the EOS R. And if you do need 4K video without a crop, you can purchase that $400 MetaBones speed booster. Now you do lose IBIS and you do lose just all the new sort of recording modes that are in the R5. But I've used this without IBIS and just optical stabilization, and it looks pretty good. Not to mention, I just love this camera. I've really enjoyed using it as my run and gun camera, my all day camera, my hybrid camera. It doesn't have the best 4K video quality. It doesn't have the best dynamic range, but it gets the job done, and I've really enjoyed my time with it. Neutral picture profile, auto white balance, everything kind of just stock and standard right now. If you can find the EOS R for like $1,200, $1,300, that's such a good deal. Like, it's gonna be really hard to pass that up, especially if you're not invested in Canon RF yet. It's a great way to jump into the ecosystem, slowly invest into it, and by the time you're ready to upgrade, there's probably going to be an R5 Mark II that has all the overheating issues fixed. You know what I mean? So just think about it. Now, this is the EOS R on the Ninja, going to the Ninja V by Atomos, and this is also the 10-bit file, 422 ProRes. This is really the setup that I think brought a lot of people over to the EOS R for video. Being able to record that 10-bit 4K file looks really, really good. And I can't wait to see how the Ninja works with the new Canon R5. So that's what this looks like. This is how I use the Canon EOS R for the most part, is with the Ninja V recorder. And it's been great. Let's see it with the R5, huh? All right, this is the Canon R5 with the Ninja V C-Log 10-bit shooting into ProRes 422. How does it look? Does it look good? Does it look nice? I think we're at ISO 800. This is not the 4K oversample. This is just the regular 4K binned mode. Remember, this mode does not have any overheating issues. How does the detail look? How does the highlight look? The shadows, the colors. Now the Canon screen goes off. Just before when I was doing this, I had this weird thing happen where it lost the HDMI connection. I thought that was odd. Now let's switch it over to the 4K HQ downsampled mode. Okay, now we're on the 4K downsampled mode, 30 frames per second, into the Atomos Ninja V. Gerald Undone did a tweet where he showed that the HDMI to Atomos system overheats over an hour, which I think is kind of a little insane. I know that my A7 R3 here, when I do the long live streams and I go for, upwards of 3-4 hours, it does overheat. It's overheated a couple times around like 2-hour mark. And then I'll probably do a separate video with just the overheating test on the Ninja V. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe to stay updated when I do that test. But I'll just be testing essentially how long until the camera overheats with a Ninja V. We know pretty much how long. Why does it do that? So there's something odd going on. Maybe it's the auto power off or something. I just switched the auto power off to off from like 1 minute to off. And hopefully that doesn't happen. The camera didn't overheat or anything. It just seemed like it stopped recording, or it lost the connection to the Atomos, and it all just stopped. So that was odd. So we're gonna kind of just test this out and see if there's any issues with that here. It's not like anything is recording on the camera. I have the display basically closed. Maybe there's some type of bug going on. I know there have been some people claiming bugs and things that need to be fixed in the next firmware update. But how does the quality look? I think it looks pretty good. I did raise the ISO a bit. I'm sorry if this looks bad or anything. I really just wanted to kind of just sit down and just see the raw difference between the non-HQ 4K and the HQ 4K. And I'll get a little bit more technical and get more into the codecs and stuff, I think, once I have a better grasp of this camera. So what a shame they went with micro HDMI, huh? I don't know why they did that. The only reason that I think they did that is so that people who have Sony already have the micro HDMI hookups and they can just easily swap. But Canon, you had the superior port. The mini HDMI is much better. And of course, now Sony has the full HDMI in the A7S III. Kind of missed it there, but it is there, and it is, I mean, how many micro HDMI things have you went through personally? I know I've went through like 6 of them. They're so bad. Now we have the 4K non-HQ mode compared with the 4K HQ mode. And when it's at like this, at 100% scale, it's tough to tell, especially when there's motion. And that's why I wanted to do this test. I wanted to see, what does the non-HQ mode, the one that doesn't overheat, how well does it stack up against the 4K that we've seen today? Now, the 4K HQ mode looks incredible. It looks like some of the best 4K that I've ever seen. Look how sharp that is at 400% scale. There's so much detail there. It looks amazing. But that 400% scale, that's nothing to scoff at with the non-HQ mode either. As you'll see when we compare it with the EOS R, it's very, very similar. It's almost exactly the same. And remember, this is coming from a binned 45 megapixel sensor. So this is impressive. You know, I think if you are worried about the quality of the non-HQ mode 4K, if you ever want to do those longer shoots, I don't think you need to, there's not much of a sacrifice. You're not losing that much. It looks great. It looks like excellent EOS R 4K that we have had, except now it's full frame without a crop and an amazing IBIS. It's the camera that I've been looking for a long, long time. Here we can see it scaled up. It's pretty much exactly the same, and the EOS R doesn't have a 45 megapixel sensor. So I think it looks really good. I mean, it looks good enough, right? It looks good enough. It's not the best 4K you're going to get, but if you ever need those long 4K shoots, now you have it, and you don't really need to worry too much about overheating. So hopefully that answers some questions for some people. It's pretty eye-opening. And now we are back to the 4K non-HQ, regular, no C-Log. We're at 640 ISO, 35 millimeters, full frame. IBIS is on. Everything is just stock and standard. This is the mode that I'll probably be recording in most of the time for anything that I need like long duration, which is, you know, most of the time, actually. This is probably the one that I'm going to be using all the time. And man, it does feel nice to have a full frame Canon that shoots 4K with IBIS. I can't wait to test the IBIS out. I mean, it's got everything I basically need, and it's so nice to have. I haven't even done any stills yet. Once I got the camera in, just rushed back to do some of this sort of comparisons because there hasn't been any of that available from any other reviewer. It's only just been like pixel peeping, and I'm not too worried about pixel peeping. I really want to see a useful scenario, especially when it comes to 4K. Once there's motion involved, things start to get really tricky, and some 4K is better than others, and I really wanted to see, is the low quality 4K from this camera any lower than the EOS R or any lower than another camera? And from what I've been seeing, that doesn't seem to be the case. It's just that the 4K high quality mode is just so much high quality. I mean, it looks really, really great. Hopefully you enjoyed all these comparisons. Hopefully you've been able to figure out a decision on this camera or another camera. I'll be doing a lot more testing, a lot more reviewing, a lot more analyzing, and then I'll be completing a full review of this camera probably in about a week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you stay updated on all the videos about the Canon EOS R5. Leave any suggestions for other tests down below. Catch you later. Peace.